new episode of Waadaplaya talk series called Concussion Sub-Series. I'm Vishak and I'm your host for the day, and I have with me Sanjay and Syed. Today's topic of discussion will be the fourth test between India and Australia, which is going to happen at Brisbane. Syed, can you give a quick introduction about yourself?
Hi. It's been an honor to be part of this show, and myself, Syed Singh, uh, working in the private sector in Bangalore. About cricket, I think it started very early in my age, right from under 12, under 14. So part of several leagues, divisions, and still kind of played till the lockdown started. Uh, Now, not so far. I'm currently in my hometown as well, so I'm not getting to play that. But hopefully, very soon I'll start playing cricket. But I'm excited because cricket has started in terms of IPL and other series, and I'm very happy that currently going into Australian series and looking forward to that.
Yeah, Sanjay, completely agree with you. We all are looking forward to this COVID situation ending and we can start our routine life and start playing and watching cricket from the stadiums and support our favorite teams. Let's start with a quick recap of the series so far. It all started in Adelaide with the pink ball test where India were completely blown away by the Aussies, and we can't get over that number 36, right? So that
Exactly.
is haunting. That is going to haunt our memory for quite some time now. And like with that, we also had a setback of Virat Kohli returning back due to paternity leave, and many experts just brushed India off, saying that India are going to be bruised and battered 4-0. But we came back pretty strongly at MCG and leveled the series 1-1. And we went it with very high confidence at SCG, but Australia stormed back and dominated 4 days of the test match. And India were just left with an uphill task on the fifth day. But our batsmen just showed extreme grit and determination to draw the test match and ensured that we don't go behind in the final test. And the series is locked at 1-1, and it is pretty interesting. And the one who wins this test match is actually going to win the test series, which is pretty interesting. It's a pretty interesting viewing for all of us. So without further delay, let's start the discussion quickly. Australia have a very superior record at the Gabba. So they have played almost 55 matches, winning 33 and losing only 8 of them. And even if you go further to the recent records, it is that they have not lost a test match since 1988 at the Gabba. And to couple with it, India also have never won a test match at the Gabba. So do you think it was a wise decision from India to actually draw the SCG test match instead of going for a win, considering the superior record from the Aussies at the Gabba?
In my opinion, I think that draw would go down in history as one of the best rearguard actions we've ever had. I don't know why people are even questioning why we didn't go out for a win, because we had so many people on the bench, battling with injuries, etc. So Pant was the only one who was going after the bowling, and that too, I thought it was because his defense wasn't good enough, and he thought that if he keeps defending, he would lose his wickets. So eventually he started just smashing everything. So he was the only one who was probably looking to get the target. And after that, pretty much, we shut shop. And I think, we were absolutely fine in going for the draw. If we had tried to somehow get those runs, we would have probably played into Australia's hands and lost all the wickets. Anyways, 9-10 Jack are pretty much, we're playing with 11 bats, 11 three number 11s, so I don't think we would have had any opportunity to win the game. So yeah, to me, it was fine, I think.
Yeah, I think to
So
add
what do
on
you
to
think
this,
of?
right? What I would like to add on is looking at the situation where the match was when the time when Pujara and Pant was going fine, and then suddenly there were back-to-back wickets where Pant was gone and Pujara went, and you had a batsman in Vihari who was having a hamstring, sticking in the crease, and you have Jadeja. We're not sure whether he's going to come or not, and with the thumb fracture or injury he had. So at that point of time, where I think hopes were gone, everyone were thinking we have to bat out one session of 36 overs with Ashwin and Vihari, and with the tailenders coming. I think the draw is a great result. I would say probably rated over that win at that point where we have come back after Smith and guys batting in their side and we were down. And I think this is a confident boosting draw, I would say, going to Brisbane Test.
Completely agree with you guys. So I think even if some of our batsmen who were they were fit, maybe they would have considered going for a win instead of a draw. But considering the situation we were in, it was a pretty good result, and it is good that we are not going behind at Gabba and we are on level terms. And what do you think about the Australia's superior record at the Gabba? It's pretty intimidating, right?
So pretty much Brisbane and Perth both are sort of similarish sort of wickets, fast and pacey. Gabba over the years, I looked at the record. Not just that Australia has a great record. None of the subcontinent teams have ever won a game at Brisbane. And similarly in Perth, India was the only one to win one Test match back in 2008. So pace and bounce is the reason why Australia do so well. Historically, the Gabba test is the opening test, and teams would take time to acclimatize, get settled. So more often than not, they would be caught on the back foot when they play the Gabba test, and that's probably one of the reasons why they have a superior record. And their fast bowling lineup has invariably been very good. Fast bowlers from the overseas team coming over, look at the bounce and pace and start short pitching too much, and that's why the Australians would do well with the bat as well. So I think generally those are the reasons why I think their record is so good at Gabba.
And I would want to add one point with Sanjay, right? So he talked about the Perth test. I remember there was a time where Anil Kumble was leading the side, where there was a lot of talks about we going into Perth and it's going to be trashed and things like that. But I remember Dravid scored 93 odd, and I think we won the test match, right? So at this point of time, these talks are just going on and on, so that they bring the team down. And I feel yes, definitely, Australian bowling right now is good, the pacey pitch and stuff, but still we just have to go and see how it looks.
The interesting point. You guys made a very interesting point that about the pitch at the Gabba, which is bouncy and pacey. So that also contributes to a major factor why Australia dominates over the visiting teams, actually, because they have a superior bowling attack which actually suits their conditions. And yeah, that is the primary reason. So let's move on to the playing 11. Yeah. So India are forced to make some changes because of the injuries. So there'll be no change to the opening pair, which is Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill. Then we have Cheteshwar Pujara batting at 3, followed by Ajinkya Rahane at 4. We'll have Rishabh Pant, who's our wicketkeeper, at 5. Then, since Hanuma Vihari is out injured with an hamstring injury, we will have either Mayank Agarwal or Prithvi Shaw replacing him. Followed, and we read in the news, we read several places that Washington Sundar is poised to make his debut, and then followed by Ravichandran Ashwin. Then we have a pretty inexperienced pace attack in Shardul Thakur, Navdeep Saini, and Mohammad Siraj. So, what do you guys think of the Indian lineup?
To me, if we are playing Washington Sundar, I personally wouldn't pick him. I would probably go with either an additional batsman, or if you want to play Saha as a keeper, considering Rishabh Pant's injury and whatnot, then I would go with that. I personally wouldn't go with Washington Sundar. He's even first class. Is pretty inexperienced. He's not done quite well in the extended format. So having a debut in Australia in those conditions, although I know what we are thinking in terms of trying to have a replacement for Jadeja, but I would probably go with an additional batsman.
So I kind of agree with the here, right? So definitely Sundar at this point of time, it would look like a panic move when they take him in. If that's one thing I think Rahane and the team management has to think about, whether they want a batsman there or a bowler there. So if it was a batsman, obviously Saha would be a right choice as of now, because he's batted in middle order for a longer time rather than Prithvi Shah, who is also not in a great form. And that also adds one advantage that Saha keeps, and will not have much of a missed chances like what we had last match, right? And if you think there is a bowler required and there are two options they already have, in terms of going for a pace bowler or a spinner. So since Shardul Thakur already gets into the team, I would definitely try an option of Natarajan, who's a left-arm pacer, which will add a different category or a considering the bowling lineup being very inexperienced. I would say with the Brisbane wicket, four fast bowlers are a much better option than going with two spinners.
Syed, you made a very interesting point about Natarajan here. So if you're playing Natarajan, whom would you play him instead of? Because we already have three pacers and a spinner.
I think it's between Natarajan and Saha, I would say, what the team management would think. Because Shardul is a decent back, and we saw that Ashwin also is now capable enough to handle those defensive situations. So I would still go with Shardul and Natarajan instead of Saha in case of, because we've seen Shardul is had a had a decent tour, I would say. We saw him in the limited over series as well, so he was decent enough in the bowling. One thing I liked about Shardul was he used to pick wickets. I know he used to go for runs, but he occasionally produces this wicket-taking delivery, which is what I think we require more as Bumrah won't be available, because Bumrah is someone who was creating a lot of chances. Now, day one, day two, Ashwin bowling there. I'm not sure about those chances, but we need someone to support Siraj or Saini at times have looked off color. So I thought Natarajan would be a better choice when it comes to the current situation, because we need that kind of a bowler or a swing in those conditions.
I think whatever choices we make, I personally don't think we should go with five bowlers. This would be a proper test of our batting lineup. So I think if we are going with six batsmen, including a wicketkeeper, then we're making mistakes. So I would pack our side with batsmen and hope that some guys, especially Rohit and Rahane, they get a big 100 on what because Brisbane, although it's bounce and pace, it's also very good for batting. So it will suit Rohit and definitely Rohit and Shubman as well, probably.
Some contrasting opinions here on the playing 11. Yeah, very interesting views. But moving on to Bumrah now. Do you think the absence of Bumrah is going to affect us, considering he was the most experienced pacer in our lineup? And in the absence of Bumrah, do you think we have the capability to take 20 wickets?
I think was a very very important person at least from for a Brisbane kind of a wicket, right? And I think Bumrah bowled with a lot of heart last three Test matches, because we've seen a lot of catches going down. I think as per the stats, around 6 to 8 catches were dropped in his bowling. But his comeback and given this crucial moments where for us to come, even in the Sydney Test, if you look at, there were times where he took this one wicket before lunch and after lunch of Payne and Chris Green, right? So though Cameron Green, so these two wickets were crucial at that time, because they were already ahead of the game, and that opened up to the tail. And I think those kind of moments is what probably will miss it. And I think Siraj and Ashwin will be will keep a key performance there, because we need them to give those moments or get those crucial wickets at the right time.
I personally think we'll struggle, but their batting is also pretty bad. They've struggled as well. So I doubt that they'll have Warner probably. I think he's 50-50. Even Pekowski, I don't know whether he's recovered or not. So we've got a chance, definitely. But our bowling lineup is definitely much more inexperienced than what they have. For some reason, they don't seem to have any injuries, and we've got our probably India A or India B team almost playing. So good luck. I mean, they've shown a lot of heart in the previous matches, so I'm sure they'll put up a fight. That's what we can hope for.
Okay, moving on to the Australian lineup. I don't see any changes being done that will be made to the Australian lineup. Do you guys agree with that?
I think one forced change possible on the top, like Sanjay said, will Pekowski, right? So Marcus Harris is in the squad, and Langer had given an interview as well that if he's not fit, he will directly replace. Which again will be an added pressure for them. He being a left-hander, right? So Ashwin will definitely bounce on. So I think other than that, there's no other changes.
But Will Pukowski looked pretty solid in that test match. And he performed in both the innings. So do you think
he is their prodigy? So
Yeah.
he looked good. like Shubman Gill, although Shubman Gill looks much more classy than any other, under 25 batsman. But Will Pucovski is very highly rated as well. So as long as he can, be away from injuries, I think he'll do very well in his Test career.
Yeah, the one problem with him is like he has already been hit on the head 9 times and has been concussed quite a few times. I think India missed a trick in the first test by not bowling enough bouncers at him. Do you guys think so?
I mean, yeah. So yes and no, but I think he fairly played well. He was patient enough. He had his odd chances here and there, but yeah, probably could have been a possibility of having more bounces.
It was a flat track as well, and obviously the drop catches didn't help on the first innings. So yeah, I think our bowling is absolutely fine. Whoever seems to come in seems to be able to deliver. Siraj somehow now in his second or third Test match is like a leading frontline bowler. Saini is a second, So Shardul Thakur in his second Test match probably. So yeah, I mean we can just hope that they deliver.
Yeah, our bowling attack looks pretty inexperienced. That is, yeah, hope they deliver. But Australian bowling lineup, they look terrific, and they seem to be bowling unplayable deliveries. Like, what does our batsman need to do with coping up with this pace attack and Nathan Lyon specifically?
I think Nathan Lyon will do really well in Brisbane. I think even in the past, a lot of the Australian spinners have enjoyed the bounce in these wickets. So I mean, even Ashwin should do well. Nathan Lyon would be a threat. In regards to unplayable deliveries, I think Pujara is the one who seems to be getting those unplayable deliveries. But I read a comment somewhere on Twitter which said that because he is able to block all the playable deliveries, he only gets out to unplayable deliveries. So it looks as if that he's getting out to unplayable deliveries, or the Aussies are bowling unplayable deliveries. But yeah, I think we've bowled very well so far in this series. But yeah, this will be the test. But yeah, as long as they give a fight, I would be more than happy because I'm not expecting anything more from them.
So I think after this 36 all out, right, Indian batsmen have played them pretty well. I would say because we have won the next test and we have drawn it after a good fight back, right? And I'm only scared about Nathan Lyon because he's not done relatively great in the series because as you would expect, he always gets wickets, right? And if you look at somehow, I feel Ashwin has overtaken him so far in the three matches. That's where I think that there's a view from him that he will definitely take a 5 or a 6 for somewhere down the line. So I hope that doesn't happen for the sake of Indian win. But yeah, I think Lion will be a most dangerous bowler for them. And Cummins, as usual, is always scary. Stark out of form is also helpful for us because if you look at, I think there's one stat which said it was the first time that Stark in an Australian match did not take wicket for last 22 overs or something. So yeah, we can expect they'll come back strongly. But at the same time, I think the top order batsmen have played recently well. I'm just expecting Lyon doesn't take a 5.
Big game for Lyon. It's 100 Test match, I think.
Yeah. All things coming up for a big show for him. That's where I'm.
And he's also on the verge of his 400 Test wicket as well.
Yeah,
he's also looking for his 400 Test wicket. So all the landmarks coming together for him.
Yeah.
So then moving on to India's growing list of injuries. Like we are completely going down the route of Sri Lanka and South Africa. So first test it was Mohammad Shami, then Umesh Yadav in the second. Between the second and third test it was KL Rahul, and then Vihari and Jadeja in the third test. And we know that Bumrah is also out, and Ashwin also had a bad back while batting on the final day. Quite a few number of injuries. So do you attribute it to lack of fitness from our team or any other concerns? You also see that these people also undergo yo-yo tests and everything. So is yo-yo test is actually a good parameter to test the match fitness of these players?
I think one of the reasons probably is that there was a big gap, obviously due to the lockdown, and then we had a couple of months of IPL, and then suddenly we are in Australia. Uh, I think in hindsight we missed a trick. We could have retained a lot of players. We could have got a team of 35 there. No one would have had a problem with it. Even when Rahul got injured, if we had sent in a proper batsman, he would have been probably out of quarantine by now. But you don't anticipate so many people getting injured, so it's probably just one off, because as you mentioned, Sri Lankans had so many injuries, India has had so many injuries, but look at Australia, apart from their batsmen, none of the bowlers seem to be getting injured. So it's a combination of a lot of factors probably. So yeah, it's just unlucky, but I'm sure all of the guys would be fit by the IPL. So some of the batsmen who were in the reserves for the tests, they've flown back and they'd be up and running for the home series and the IPL.
I mentioned it's more of the lockdown and the flow is probably not there. Like 7 8 months, nobody had any game or practice and things like that, and suddenly IPL comes. And if you look at like good point mentioned by Sanjay in terms of Australian bowlers, right? So if you look at I feel the amount of cricket Indian players played before and after the IPL, right, is something which is lesser than what Australian players also played, right? If you look at Stark, except for Cummins, I would say he had a full-fledged IPL. Stark and Lyon did not have a IPL contract, and Hasselwood basically played 2 3 games with the CSK, right? And that's one reason I think even Cameron Green or things those guys were fresh enough compared to the Indian players. And a lot of things will go in terms of your lockdown or having this quarantine and things like that. So that also didn't help. So probably like the right point mentioned by Sanjay, we could have stayed, made sure that some players stayed. Like Washington Sundar stayed. We didn't even know that he was staying for so long, but we let go a lot of players like Shreyas Iyer or Samson for that matter. Probably could have stayed with the team. But yes, we didn't expect so many injuries, that too for the bowlers, and we are into the last test where the series is in line, and we have 4 bowlers we don't have more than 2 test experience, right? So that's the thing. So yeah, these things happen, but uncertain times, uncertain things happen. That's how it's been 2020.
Absolutely agree. I think the reason I think Shreyas Iyer did not stay back is he had a shoulder niggle and he is also not playing in the side Mustaq Ali currently. So otherwise, maybe they could have looked at him as an option. But yes, few more players could have still stayed back. And considering the COVID situation that you cannot apply in players that easily, like we could have made some players stay back and made sure they are available as backup.
Yeah, I think
I
we have
completely agree with you there, Bumrah.
big lesson for a lot of the teams touring other countries. They will pack their bench strength and ensure that one is it gives them a lot of good practice to play between each other, and also in cases of injuries they are able to have enough backups.
Yeah. So now quickly moving on to the series and the match predictions. What do you guys think?
I would want to say in favor of India, but uh, one thing I would expect to see is a fight, being a nail biter, and not like how it happened in the first Test match, where everyone expecting a great fight and it become like a totally one-sided match. I would expect that fight, but only because of the bowling strength currently, Bumrah being a key factor, I would go probably in favor of Australia. Uh, but otherwise, I think it should be a close match to see.
If we can take the match to fifth day post lunch, then I think this series would probably be, the things we've done in this series, it would be better than what we did in 2018-19. So I can only expect a fight. I think Australia will come very hard, and considering the all the talks about how people are uncomfortable in the in the hotel room and all that sort of things. I think they've struggled with so many injuries, and Brisbane being quick and pacey wickets. So fingers crossed we do well, but yeah, who knows? We might bring a surprise.
You made a pretty interesting point here about Brisbane, the quarantine rules and stuff. So, I read somewhere that the Indian team is not having any housekeeping in their rooms, and they're forced to do things by themselves and forced to order food through food apps. do you think such a strict quarantine rules is necessary?
So I have, firstly, I have big problem with all information coming through sources. Literally, there's no official statement on anything. None of the things which have come through from the media is been from official sources. So I'm sure there are quarantine rules. There are strict quarantine rules, because it's a federal structure. You have different states having different quarantine rules. I'm sure it's the same rules for everyone's, and you're there not to do anything else, but to play and try and win a game for your country. So yes, you've been under quarantine for 6 months, but I don't like all these murmurs coming from the Indian camp. I'm sure it's not the players; it's probably the support staff or someone just passing some messaging on to the journalists and their sources. So I personally think we should just completely ignore them, focus on what's the task at hand. Try and go all out and try and do something for the country.
No more comment because Sanjay covered it all. I would say that you've traveled a long time, and don't lose your focus for these things, and go with it and make sure you finish that fourth test good and return back home.
Completely agree with you guys on that. Like when you're going on a tour and when you're representing a nation, you have to abide by the rules and play accordingly. So, like, just focus on the task at hand and win the test series and come back. So, this thanks guys for your insightful feedback. It was pretty nice talking to you both, and there was some nice there was some nice points being put across. And finally, like for our subscribers and viewers, please like our videos and subscribe to our channel and support us. Thanks, everyone.